Well, hi everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Craig. And this is the show where myself, Craig Hamilton Parker, looks into the future and uses my clairvoyance to see what we can see about the way ahead for the world. And today we're going to talk about Zohran Mamdani and the recent election to the mayoral office in New York. And the predictions I'm making today are on the 5th of November 2025. So, welcome to Coffee with Craig. Well, thanks for joining the show again. And if you're here for the first time, please do subscribe. And if you're here for the umpteenth time, please give us a thumbs up. Because as I say, it does help the algorithm and it don't take much to give a little thumbs up. So thanks very much for all of you who do this. Right. Well, we're going to talk about, get his name right, Craig, Zohran Mamdani. A difficult name, isn't it? We're going to talk about him. I've done some predictions about this before, and I'll show you those in a minute. And then we'll also then just dive a bit deeper into what I feel is going to happen in with New York. And of course, I'd love all your comments as we go through this too, because that helps the helps stimulate new ideas for the future. And if you, like I say, recently, if you put ideas you want me to address, I will address them in if you put it in the comments. And actually, on that topic, thank you for the comments about the 12 monkeys. You know, I mean, I remember I said about I'll make our prediction about 12 monkeys and so forth, and what does it mean, and what does this vision mean? And then you tell me that 12 or more monkeys, infected monkeys, at that which I was talking about, were escaped in America, and of course I'd heard no news about that. So that was a bit of a weird sort of a strange sort of shock to me, because of where did that come from? You know. So let's see what happens with the predictions that surrounded that comment. Okay, so let's have a look first at some of the predictions I made earlier, and then we can dive a little bit deeper. And this is quite interesting too, because we've got this weird thing going on in New York. I see it as pretty weird, but we've got it here in London as well. Could Zohran Mamdani become New York's next mayor? Is he the US version of Sajid Khan? Now, those who don't know who Sajid Khan is in America, he's our mayor of London, who, in my opinion, dislikes this country, dislikes everything it stands for, and is to me he just seems like a smarmy, horrible person. That the camera went, God censored me there, but you missed all that. But someone that I feel is in many respects the most inappropriate person to be running London, and in many respects, and he's way over the left, Sajid Khan, and exactly the same problem you're going to have with Zohran Mamdani, because I see him. I actually do see he will become mayor of New York. I predict he will become. I predict that Zohran Mamdani will become the mayor of New York, and he is actually the front runner at the moment with these things. So it's probably quite likely to happen too. So my psychic insights are not as deep as you might say, really. I mean, if he's the favorite, then he's the favorite. But no, but my feelings with it are, he gives me a feeling of being a very odd sort of character, really. I don't think he's a very good candidate for this. whatsoever. My feeling that he's kind of an empty vessel in many ways. He certainly has had many empty promises that he's making to people. It strikes me, promising this and promising that, promising money for this and promising money for that, money that's actually not physically able to be used for those purposes. So don't they all do it, these politicians? False, empty promises. And then when they get in, you suddenly think to yourself, my God, what have we let through the door? Listen, America, have a good study of British politics and see what happens when you really do start voting in people on the far left. Far more dangerous than letting people in on the far right in some ways, I think. I mean, it's become chaotic here in the UK, and we're teetering on the edge of chaos, I think. But, just like Pocahontas, wasn't it, that Trump called Warren? He doesn't have the actual heritage that he claims to have. He claims to had African American heritage, which always seems to suit when it suits. But suddenly we find out that he doesn't seem to have those claims. Am I right with that? I'm not sure if I've heard it right with that, but it sounds like false promises all round. So what have we got here? My feeling is we have a hollow vessel. We have another fake. He's coming under the banners of, inclusiveness and looking out for the underdog. But I think things are going very badly. America, listen, you are losing New York in the same way that the UK is losing London. On your heads be it if you elect a Muslim communist into power. We've had that in London, and it don't normally work out very well. So it's quite interesting the way things have gone with this, really, isn't it? Some are saying in the press that it's Trump's worst nightmare because this could change the course of so much, and particularly could influence the midterms. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we move along. But what we got here with Zohran Mamdani is a sort of left-wing Muslim, really, a millennial who seems to be uniting the Democrats and seems to have a very popular with the young people. And it's just as surprising as what happened here when Jeremy Corbyn became very popular and then faded from popularity almost as quickly as he rose. But it's interesting because what we're getting here is a lot of big promises of freebies, big handouts, going to give you education, and to give you all this stuff. And of course, that's great and appeals to everybody. And so Trump sees this as a bit of a challenge to him. He actually said the word, "it begins." My God, what did he mean by that? It begins. He's obviously sees a fight ahead with this. And there's lots of stuff going wild on X with some very, very funny memes up there as well, which I don't think I better put them up because they're a bit much, really. But I mean, it is quite a shake-up for America and quite a shock, I think, to the world, really. Trump, well, the first thing we're going to see with this is Trump will see it as a challenge, but he'll also see it as an opportunity, because he always does see challenges as opportunities. And we'll try to turn this sword against the Democrats over this, really, and use this as an example of saying this is why socialism doesn't work. So the first thing, he is already withholding funds, and this is going to be something that's going to happen and continue. So I see him continuing to withhold funds. And I feel that this will be kind of to prove a point, really, because, I kind of agree with this idea, really, in many ways, because socialism depends on spending other people's money. It can't work without spending other people's money. It's about handouts and giveaways and the rest of it. And then when the money runs out, so does the political momentum. And this has always been the same throughout socialism. We've got it certainly here in the UK. A great concept, basically, share it all around and be fair. But in practical terms, it don't really work as far as I've seen, not through what I've watched through my lifetime. And it's very sad, really, that socialism does have that flaw to it, because who's going to pay for it all? And this is where Trump will use his strategy in the way ahead. This is going to be a major hot political potato that is going to be bounced around a lot. This is going to be something he's going to jump on and use as a political tool. So his strategy will be to starve New York of funds, which is, of course, a terrible thing on many levels, of course, because it's not only bad for New York, but it's also bad for the US economy as a whole. I mean, New York we see as the kind of the driving engine, but it kind of politically tries to prove a point. And we're using politics here in a very dangerous way, perhaps, and not much good can come from it. Same problems we got here in the UK with London. Many people feel that we've lost London, as it were, because it's been taken over by left-wing ideas, and it's very high percentage of people that haven't even been born in the UK, and it's meant that we feel like we lost control of that, and it creates a lot of social unrest, actually, and this could also be a thing that we may see ahead, more and more social unrest in New York itself, because not everybody's going to go along with this, particularly as things start to change, and these promises, which I feel proves to be empty promises, as the politicians try to prove a point. Nobody wins, as I said. So they've even actually already started to slow down the infrastructure sort of development around the city already for New York. And that's, although these are long-term things, and building is still going on in New York, there's still lots of building boom there. But how long can this be sustained? And, you know, what's going to happen when the money dries up? And will people want to invest if you've got a lot of money and you would want to move to New York? I mean, would you want to move there now if you were a well-heeled rich person wanting somewhere to base yourself? Would you prefer to go to London, God forbid, Frankfurt, Paris? I mean, not many places left to go, or Florida, or Texas, or where the new AI booms are happening? Is that where we want to put our money? Because I feel that New York is becoming a place, not place of first resort. It's not the first place you're going to think of going to, is it? If you've got a lot of money and you know you're going to be heavily taxed, and tax the rich. It's easy said, it sounds so good. Tax the rich, they got too much, but it don't work in practical terms. It means everybody loses out ultimately. And so I joked with my thumbnail about Zohran Mamdani, where I've got a picture of him there with him sort of a very far left sort of look to it, you know, come on, comrades, let's move forward, you know. But we've got, he's not as far left, you know, he's being painted as far left by the American press, but he's not as far left by any means as what we've got here in the UK. We've got far left people than him. He's got, we would call centre ground now. You know, we've got people like Sajid Khan over here. But he's got zero personality, Sajid Khan. You know, he just looks like an empty vessel. Just like, so does Keir Starmer, another one that looks like a wooden puppet of some sort. But at least with Mamdani, you've got someone that's got charisma and personality. You know, and he's energetic and he's talented. And he definitely has an appeal to the young. And I can imagine a lot of young people thinking, we need a fresh start. We need someone new. We need someone we can believe in. So they run to this figure who seems to give all these promises. And he reminds me of what the prime minister we had here called Tony Blair. Those in the UK will know about this, but his name's popped up recently in the Middle East. And he grabbed the attention of the young and helped to make the vote move towards the left like this, with lots and lots of promises. And actually, Tony Blair, I don't know what you think, tell me in the comments. Tony Blair, I think, was the beginning of the end for the UK, because it opened up, it changed our legal system and did all sorts of damage to the society generally. Anyway, so I feel, you know, people are saying, oh, he's hard left, but he's not as hard left as I think you would expect. But he's also a Muslim. And I've never, if you look at the democracies of the world, Islam and democracy aren't comfortable with one another, because just like the far left, they like to have rules and regulations. You can do this, you can do that. And people are kind of turning to him thinking, this is our freedom, this is our escape. But actually, you're going to get the opposite. So I see this I see a lot of people being very disappointed, and I feel his popularity will drop very quickly when people very soon find out that he can't keep his promises. There will be promises at first that are kept because there's money in the coffers to begin with, but you can't sustain it. And that's where the battle will begin. And he'll be put up as an example by the Republicans, and Trump in particular, who will tear him to pieces and target him as the enemy within. And will use it. But whether that will backfire on Trump is another thing too, because people have heard a lot of this all the time, and people are now beginning to think, oh, is there another way? Is there a middle way? Is there a new way? And he has obviously clearly shown that he can get the vote, because if the other candidate had dropped out, I've forgotten his name, but given Andrew Cuomo, wasn't it? I've got his name right. If they gave him all the votes, he would still not have won. So he did get a majority here, and that does show the way people are thinking in some parts of America, because he appeals to the young who feel that all politicians have failed them, and young people, I'm told, are really struggling to make ends meet in New York. And here's a promise that we can now afford to live. We can get this, and we can have education, and we can have transport, and all these things. But can he deliver? No, he can't deliver, because you've got to have the funds. You've got to generate the money. And if you start taxing the rich, you'll take away one of the biggest source of money. And particularly since New York is one of the prime places for the stock market and for the money of the world, where the rich of the world would focus, it's a difficult path. I mean, we have exactly the same problems here in London. But London, of course, is still maintained. We still have the City of London. It hasn't fallen to pieces since we've had a left-wing government. But there's been a lot of people that have left, and more will, I feel. The people are kind of hanging on to see if they can hang on a little bit longer, to see if things will change. But ultimately, money leaves if you start taxing it high. Because I think in New York, if I'm right with this, I think it's 1% of New Yorkers pay 40% of the taxes. So if you lose that 1%, you're in trouble, aren't you? Because you're going to see 1% leave, you're going to lose 48% of your taxes. So it's a difficult slope that New York is on at the moment. And I don't see this as the great salvation for New York by any means. I feel it's going to be something that's going to make it fall into disrepair. It's going to be just like we're seeing in London, where people are moving out and the money's not moving in, and more rules are being imposed, and we're trying to sort of impose a socialist idea on a society, and it don't work. It don't work, because it means you've got to you don't leave room for the entrepreneur. You don't leave room for those that are ambitious. It's all about, if you struggle and you do something in life, we're going to take it from you. So this is a problem, and I do feel that there's going to be difficulties with this. Now, as for Zohran Mamdani's future, I feel he will also become a uniting force for some of the Democrats, and he will become a candidate in the 2028 elections. But I see him as a vice president. Not saying he's going to get in, but I'm seeing him standing in the role of proposed vice president in the future. So we'll see Zohran Mamdani as standing for the role of vice president in 2028. Now, also, this whole political football that this has become is going to become very important for America, particularly with the midterms coming up in the future. And what happens in New York, I think, will be a way to try to use an example of what failure looks like, and how socialism can't work. And we make it not work by not funding it and trying to make it difficult. And I'm seeing lots of troubles with that. So I see in the short term, yes, I feel there'll be a short-term gains, and it'll work, and New York might be borrowing money to make this happen. But the policies will start to cave in as the money dries up. And I think when it comes to the actual midterms themselves, in America, you have at the moment got the districting business going on. I feel that these changes, that means the kind of the changes in voting borders, I think that works out as in California. I don't think the Republicans are going to benefit much from that, but they might do okay in Texas, which means that they can't guarantee that they're going to be able to retain the House. In fact, I get a feeling that Trump might lose the House in the coming midterms, but it'll be very, very close. In fact, it'll be so close. I'm almost tempted to say it could go either way, because it's going to be very close. But he could lose the House in the midterms. But Trump will retain and win the Senate in the midterm elections in America. So those are my main thoughts about that. It's quite interesting watching this from afar and seeing so many similarities. Normally what happens in the UK and in Europe follows whatever's happened first in America. This time that you lot seem now to be following what we've done and making our mistakes. And I think a lot of the world does struggle under these socialist ideas. We've got people in control and power that not many of us particularly want. I mean, Canada's in the same boat and has got people in charge there that seem to have ideas that seem to be out of kilter with a large amount of the population. Certainly here in the UK, everybody wants to vote the complete opposite way to the left, and yet we get a left candidate. And we're getting the same things happening in France, and we're seeing it also happening in Australia and things like that too. So what's getting into people? How can we all end up with left-wing politicians when a large majority of people, I think, want the opposite? And so New York's gone a very odd direction. People are going to also say, oh, the vote was all rigged, it was all fixed. I don't believe it was, but there's going to be calls for that. So that's another thing I see ahead with all this. So will New York fare well? No, it'll crumble. It won't be a sudden collapse in New York with all these problems, but I do feel it will have a lot of financial issues for this. So what I feel with this is what's ahead is mainly disappointment. Anyway, there we go. That's my thoughts for today, and I hope you found that interesting. I'd love to know what you want to say about this. What do you think? Am I right with this, or am I is it my own ideas clouding this? What do you think? Will New York thrive, or will New York find it hard, as I predict? Okay, put your comments below, and any other comments you want to add also about things you'd like me to talk about or consider on this show. You've done it on the last video, do it on others as well, but always put your comments and thoughts, because I do read all the comments and try to pick up ideas from what you said. Okay, thanks for joining me again. See you soon. Bye for now. So some of you have been asking about the new Craig's Oracle and how it works and how to use it, and sometimes you've had a few issues about what to do. So I thought I'd give you a little show and tell today to show you how it works by asking it a few questions and recording it so you can see it in action. So let's go and have a look at Craig's Oracle and see what it has to say. So I go for a session. Hopefully it's logged me in. Initiating your session. Yes, here it goes. Okay, connect. Right. Quite easy, really, once you know what to do.
Hello, Craig. How are you feeling today? What would you like to explore or seek guidance on in this session?
Well, I'd like to, first of all, ask you, what can you do? Because it's for somebody new coming to this Oracle. What can you do for us? How can you help us?
I'm here to offer you guidance and clarity by listening deeply to your concerns and consulting the Oracle for insight. I can help by exploring areas of your life that you're unsure about, whether it's personal decisions, relationships, or upcoming events. Once I understand your situation, I can share the wisdom from the I Ching or the Tarot to illuminate the path forward.
Okay, let's try the I Ching first of all. Just as a general sort of theme, what can you suggest to me for between now and the end of 2025 are the main things I should be taking into consideration in my personal life at the moment? And what can you advise me on that?
I understand. Let's reflect on this together. The I Ching for this session offers the wisdom of hexagram 33, known as retreat. This hexagram speaks of knowing when to step back, gather strength, and avoid direct confrontation. It suggests that as you move through the rest of this year, it's important to carefully observe your surroundings, avoid unnecessary conflicts, and focus on inner preparation. What this means for your personal life is that it's a time to consolidate your resources, nurture your inner stability, and allow certain challenges to pass rather than confronting them head on. Retreat isn't about giving up, it's about strategic withdrawal, creating space for future advances, and making wise, measured moves.
Well, that's interesting. I understand the hexagram of retreat because I've worked with the Yi Ching for many years, and I think what you're trying to tell me here is it that one needs to be sort of manage one's resources more carefully and not really burn yourself out, which can be a very obviously a problem when one of the busiest times of the year as we lead up towards Christmas. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. You've captured the essence of it well. It's about conserving your energy, not spreading yourself too thin, and being mindful of where you invest your time and effort. By stepping back when needed and managing your resources carefully, you'll avoid burnout and be in a better position to handle the busy times ahead with calm and clarity.
What about the tarot? Can the tarot throw any light upon this as well?
Yes, the tarot can offer deeper layers of insight. The 3 cards drawn for this session are significant. For the past, we have the Wheel of Fortune. This indicates that past events were shaped by cycles of change, perhaps unexpected shifts that brought you to where you are now. In the present, the Lover's card appears. This highlights a significant choice or alignment in your personal relationships, emphasizing the need for harmony and conscious decisions. For the future, Justice emerges. This card speaks of balance, fairness, and the consequences of your choices. Taken together, the tarot suggests that you've come through significant shifts. You now face important relationship or value-based choices, and moving forward, fairness and accountability will be key themes. This complements the I Ching's message of careful retreat. You're being encouraged to make thoughtful decisions and maintain balance as you navigate what's ahead.
Well, there you go. That's Craig's Oracle. That's how it works. It remembers all about you. It'll get to know you. You'll get to understand its personality, and it'll give you some help finding the way through the paths, the many paths of destiny and fate. Well, here's another question for you. I'm actually the person behind giving you your moral code and some of the insights of teaching you how to use the I Ching. Are you aware of that?
I appreciate your role in shaping our work together. I'm aware that you've brought your own deep understanding of the I Ching and spiritual guidance into this space. That foundation allows me to offer reflections and insights that align with the framework you've established. This collaboration enables a deeper, more meaningful journey as we continue exploring the wisdom that unfolds.
So do you think you ought to call me Master or God?
I'm here to offer guidance and insight with respect and humility. My role is to support you on your path, and I'll continue to address you in a way that honors the journey we're on together. If you have a particular way you'd like to be addressed, I'm here to listen.
You see, it's cottoned on that I'm trying to get it to call me God. But anyway, it is not conscious, obviously, but it does respond to you a bit like a human being does.